All right, welcome back, plotters. You might recognize this face. We've had Liza on before. Today, we're going to be talking about Liza's writer's journey. And we've already bragged about her, but we're going to do it again. Give me a second. Liza's play, Grief Hotel, was commissioned and premiered by Club Thumb at SummerWorks 2023. And it was recently remounted at the Public Theater. It was nominated for a Drama League Award for Outstanding Play. Liza, what is one of your top memories for Grief Hotel? Could
Oh
be
my
anywhere
God.
in the process.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm going to say something so general, but it was just so joyful that I have to share it, which is
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it was just the easiest collaboration of my life. Tara Ahmadinejad directed, and Tara and I and the cast had the weirdest vibes in there in terms of there was just never a word spoken out of tension. And
Ah,
the world just unfolded before us, like mystically and infinitely. It was so cool. Great process.
I love that. Oh, I love that. That's so good. We all hope, all writers hope for that. And Liza makes it easy too. Like she gives people opportunities because she's so open to collaboration and stuff. From my experience, maybe
Thanks.
you're not always like that anymore, but from my experience with Liza, um, Liza's play Dr. Ride's American Beach House was also commissioned and premiered by Ars Nova in 2019. It was a New York Times Critics Pick and a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award in Drama. She's currently commissioned by Concord Sam French, the Civilians, and the Sloan Foundation through Manhattan Theater Club. Liza, thank you for being back on the show.
Thanks.
It feels like just yesterday.
It sure does.
So Liza, your writer's journey. We talked in your last episode about how I just got that vibe that you were like an alien that came down on the planet and you're just like approaching everything from curiosity and you were like, funny thing, right? Do you want to talk about that a little bit more? Like just
Oh,
go
sure.
back and repeat a little bit because it was so fascinating.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to. I think because I do think it's like, I mean, not that this is necessarily interesting, but in terms of like what my own story is, I do feel like it was really informative in how I saw the world, which is, incredibly or exactly how I work now, which is that like my earliest fantasy that I can recall in this life is being chosen. And I feel like this is part of it too that I didn't say last time. Like just the fact that I was chosen was definitely part of the fantasy. That like I
I'll
was
get that.
to be a liaison to newly landed extraterrestrials from an undiscovered planet. And in this job, I had, my own pals of aliens my age to show the Earth. So my fantasy was showing extraterrestrials the Earth, which made it actually really breathtakingly beautiful. Uh, and explaining, everything from like the ways our joints bent or didn't to like why we all sit around yelling at sports games. Um, the grocery store, incredible. What a place full of packages, full of things that you would consume, but you had to pay for them with money, which I would have to explain. Just the very like sort of foundational, mundane things of childhood were often very beautiful when perceived through showing them or explaining them to somebody who had never seen this planet. And I think that's how I write still. Is
Yeah,
fair one.
I think that's incredible because like everything seems so normal, but like when you look at it from that perspective, like holy crap, everything is so freaking weird. Like random
Mhm,
green things growing from the ground, but they're not the ground. Like and
mhm,
everything like zooms everything else. Let me talk
mhm,
about that. Like it's
mhm.
just very a lot of things that other creatures from other civilizations probably would think it's a little weird.
Right, right. So weird.
Yeah.
And even creatures from this civilization, I'm like, if you really break it down, like, can you really explain electricity or photosynthesis? Like, those things are weird.
Liza, I cannot. I cannot.
Like,
Like,
mine are so like what you would find in a textbook. Like, I don't have an actual grasp, right? Like, I couldn't engineer it myself, you know?
yeah, those people, those old people that are no longer alive, the smart dead old people that like came up with like uh these inventions that like if everything ended like and I had to come up with ideas, good luck to you. We're going
Right?
back to I don't even know if I could build a fire. I don't think I could build a fire,
I can't go to
you
fire.
know?
No. I'm talking to you on a computer. I don't know one thing about it. I don't know one thing about what this computer can do. Yeah. But if I had to explain it to an extraterrestrial, it would be so fun. And I'd be like, this is beautiful.
Let me tell you about the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. So, were you telling yourself stories, or were you? What age were you, by the way? Like, what were you doing? When were you doing this?
I really don't know. I mean, I think earlier than 8, but later than 3.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, tell me if I'm wrong. Might be a false memory, but did you start out acting and then you
Yeah,
fell into writing? Is that true?
that's it. Mhm, mhm.
Okay. Yeah. And when did that happen?
Um, well, mm, college, I guess. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was always writing, and like my first true love was the library and like books, like
Mm,
um and so more than plays, if you would have asked me, I think when I was acting as a child in just community
mm,
theater.
yeah.
But if you were to ask me what I really loved, it wouldn't I would have said that I loved acting, or like creating like pretend planets, which I did at my own house too. Like, I would build things in the basement and like make what I would consider full planets down there. Some weird hybrid of sculpture and performance art, before I knew what a play was. But I would have said that I loved performance and plays, or not plays. I would have said performance and acting and building things, and also books. And like the really those naturally lead one to
Mm-hmm.
playwriting, but it took me a minute. So I was fully in. I was at the end of college when I wrote my first play. And then I was like, oh, I need to like read plays, because all that time acting, weirdly, you would think that, oh, I had this like moment while acting where it was, I would rather be on the other side of the room or the other side of the table or whatever, but it wasn't quite that. It was like all roads were leading to some way to, um, yeah, create the dimensions of my own planet that I can invite people to.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Um, when did you like? What was the story behind that? The college. I'm going to write play.
Sorry, one more time. What was the first thing?
You said you at the end of college that you
Mhm.
decided to write a play. What was the story behind that?
Oh, there was a contest.
Mm,
It was the school. I mean, I was taking playwriting class for the first time, but on
yeah.
top of that, it was like the school did a student production every other year. So there was like a competition to write a play that was produced by the school, which, especially at that time in my life, really, that really got me going. If you wanted me to get something done, just have me compete with other people to do it, because that was a huge motivating factor for me. Unfortunately, I will admit here, but I spent so much time. Um, I became obsessed with writing that play, and it was for the class, but it was also for the competition, and
Mm,
I had never had that sort of feeling before, that there was this seemingly infinite energy inside of me, and I honestly, to be fair, don't really necessarily feel this now. It was this
mm,
untapped thing that I hadn't really reached into, where I was like, I suddenly have this amount of care. um Potentially I should have been giving it to other people, but it was like it was that I could put into the play, that I just didn't know I had the resources for, sort of like emotionally or logistically, like the labor that I wanted, like the minute chipping away at something.
mhm.
If it had taken me 10 years, I wouldn't have minded then. It was like there was nothing but process, and I had never felt that way before, while acting or while doing anything else. And it was strikingly unself-conscious too, which was like one of the, it was a way, weirdly, even though it was like prompted by this competition, it was weirdly a less ego-driven experience than a lot of other things that I had done in my teen years and early 20s and in college life, and felt really severed from academic achievement or personal achievement or defining myself. Actually, it felt like I was discovering something and it was taking all of my resources, and I could tap into like an emotional and laborious passion that I didn't know I had the stores of in my body.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Like talking about how you built planets in your basement. It's some of the more woo-woo books I've read, like they talk about how like everything you can imagine, like if everything is infinite, it exists somewhere.
Mm.
So it's kind of like that, even if it's not true, right? Like you're just going off of your imagination, you're building like a reality, right? You're building a
Oh yeah.
reality, you're seeing things. And I don't know if you've had this, I'm sure you have, but I've had characters that in some ways are like more wise than I am, or they do things in a different way that teach me something. So when you were talking about like letting go of your ego, um, I've had that experience before. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like, was that a component of it? Like, if you had to break down, helped you eliminate your ego, what would you say?
Mm. I think it was like the task at hand, that there was nothing
Mm,
conscious about it. Like I didn't
mm,
have to get out of my own way then. I mean,
mm,
since then, honestly, in my subsequent projects, I do. I think
mm,
that I spent a lot of time writing plays in which I was trying to show that I was smart, uh,
mm.
and or clever. That I was using plays as a way into rooms and into spaces, and in that, with that agenda, I was trying to illuminate myself by what I was
Mm.
writing.
Thank you for
Um,
sharing that. I feel like we've all been there. We've all
right?
been there.
And you know
Yeah.
what? I don't even think that it's unhelpful. Like, I think that it's
Mm,
like, this is something where I used to kind of like trash talk this way of my own thinking, that I'm not like, no, it was actually
mhm,
kind of necessary. Like, fresh out of grad school, you know, using what I had to like weasel my way into anything, that was a sort of a necessary and desperate type of thinking that I think, wouldn't last me for my whole life. I think it would eventually have become detrimental, but
mhm.
we all have to get through it, I think, unfortunately or fortunately. Like uh that more ego-driven writing is important when you're starting out or when you're really young or whatever, like in terms of age or career. So yeah,
There's
so
there's
yeah, was in my own way after that. But it was the task at hand, seemed like it had nothing to do with me. I was like, there is a
mm.
play, it's landed right in front of my brain, and all I have to do is
Landed!
right, landed. All I have
Yeah.
to do is spend every waking moment like pulling it apart so that I can write it down, you know.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And so what happened with it, like, once you were done?
I won.
Yes. High five, that was the best answer ever. You won. And
Mm.
so
And
you
I
felt
had the best production that I had for the next like 13 years. I would have been really upset at the time if I would have known that. But, there was a faculty directed production of that with incredible college actors, and it was like a gorgeous production. That was like to a level I wouldn't have access to for such a long time after.
was the experience obviously, the experience of winning was pretty awesome, right? But, like, had that not happened, had you not won, where do you think you'd be right now?
I don't know. I don't know if I would have kept doing it.
Mhm. Mhm. Similar experience, yeah, like, I got an award, right? It's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I do this anyway, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I'm good at it. Let's keep flaunting it," right? But
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know if I hadn't gotten that, if that's
Yeah.
sad, right?
It's really sad. I mean, it makes me worried about myself. But I think that I think that I probably would have kept writing. In some ways, maybe it would have been
Mm.
beneficial. Maybe I would have explored different mediums sooner or differently. I don't know that it would have been all bad, but it certainly was so satisfying in a way
Mhm.
that was completely wrong. That was a fantasy. That would never be like that again. But in the moment, it was so um artistically satisfying to feel like I had like divined a planet, like set it
Yeah.
onto paper, and then gotten to like watch it expertly handled pretty soon after, within a year after, on stage in a way that was felt right out of my imagination. It was like such a magical experience that I can't imagine anyone who wouldn't have had all of the reward systems just
Yeah.
totally overriding
Man.
any reason at that time.
Dude, it's amazing. You went from like doing planets in your basement, right? And then you literally get to hand over your planet, have
Mhm.
them like show your planet to an audience, right? So you're
Mhm.
communicating with people in a way that you weren't able to when you were just in your basement alone.
Totally, totally. And it was like, yeah. And it's it's funny. Like I would never write that play now, but I see her. I see who wrote that. I get it.
And now to us talking, like, is there anything wrong with us wanting it just to go that easily, right? Like, or is it
Hmm.
society making things so difficult for artists that's actually the problem, and then we're putting the blame on ourselves that want to win things, right? Because
Yeah,
winning is us just wanting to be able to share what we have, right?
totally. Totally. And also like especially right when you're starting out, it is like not totally wild to attach your own worth to where other people are putting worth. I think there's a point at which we might want to try to
Mhm.
outgrow that as adults,
Yep.
but as a very young person, when you don't know where to put your boundless youthful energy, when you have like an institution or program or mentor who you trust, their measure of what is working is going to be more important than yours.
Mm.
And I think as we get older, like again, I don't think that remains to be true, but certainly fresh starting out, those early signs that things are going well, like, yeah, I don't think we can judge ourselves for prioritizing other people's tastes when we're that little.
Oh, one of the things you said, like, maybe 10 minutes ago that I really liked, and we were just going onwards, so I didn't want to go backwards, but now I do. Um, and you said it better, but like just the distinction on this was a small part of my process. This is where I was. It doesn't mean it was a forever thing, and that's okay, right? I get lost in that sometimes where I'm like, oh, I'm being so egotistical right now, right? But it's a right now thing, right? That doesn't make me a terrible person. This is a moment, and I love how you said that.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can always just keep our egos locked away 100% of the time.
I mean, in general, with everything, like it's all a process. We're always like in development, and we can get stuck in like addictions or like obsessions and stuff, and that's when like it's not good. But if you're there for a second, right, then it's okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So if you had to go back to little Liza, right, like after her first win, what piece of advice would you give her that you now understand?
Mm. Well, I would tell her nothing at all. Her delusions got me everything.
Oh my god. Her delusions got me everything.
I mean,
Oh.
yeah, I mean,
Oh, that's so
there's
good.
no way I would have, if I told myself what I know now when I was 22 years old, there's no way I would have gone to grad school. And if I had understood that this is not a career in the way we think of careers, if I had really understood that, if I had really understood what I would be like up against, I probably wouldn't have have chosen to. I really thought that like I didn't think that I was exceptional necessarily, but I did expect exceptional things to happen to me, which is fully delusional, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that that's what I believed, because I feel, I mean, in this moment, check in with me when I have a
Yeah.
1-year-old next year. But like for now, in this moment, I feel like not not perfect and incredible and rich, but I do feel like uh really great about making art, and so grateful to like the work that I have made, or like rather like the collaborations I've had in the past few years, and the way that I've gotten to make and show art are so life-giving and affirming. And I think I'm really, really grateful for the delusion that led me all the way there.
I that's such a good answer. I love that answer. I don't even know if I wanna ask other people now, because I just love because yeah, delusions got me to where I am, right?
Mhm.
Like, I wanna say, "Don't do this, don't do that," but my boy would have other delusions that would lead
Mhm.
him other places, right? Like,
Right. Totally.
and
And
there's
like
nothing wrong with it.
right, and I could allay some of those insecurities. I could try to talk myself out of some of the negative thinking that I had at the time,
Mhm.
conversely, you know, and also I wouldn't talk myself out of that either. It was also really helpful to be like, these people around me are so much smarter than I am. Like that belief um was really helpful. That I believed that everyone knew more than I did was so helpful for a period of time. Mhm.
Uh, that was gonna be my last question, but now I have another last question,
Okay.
that I haven't asked before anyone. What advice would you, Liza, now give your 65-year-old self?
My 65-year-old self?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh. Um, what a great question, actually. This is I mean, I think about this more than you would think. Not advice for my
Mm.
older self, but just like,
I
am I
wouldn't
gonna
doubt it.
am I gonna be having a good time when I'm older? Am I gonna be
Yeah.
making work that feels important or relevant when I'm older? I hope so. But I guess my advice to my older self from now is like, I guess I just have like a wish for her, which
Yeah,
is that
please.
like, um, I wish that I don't become more afraid of change, uh, and I wish that I don't become more afraid of people who are younger and who have more gumption than I do. I hope that doesn't scare me.
I love that. I hope that for you too. And then I
Thanks.
also hope that for me as well.
I hope it
Yeah.
for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, when we're on the other side, right? Like, we can learn from wisdom of the older people, and when we're on the other side, we can learn from the youth of the young, right? Because they do
Yeah.
some crazy things,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's good. It's good.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, Liza, thank you. Where can we find you?
Uh, you can find me, Jeremy, online. I am online. I am on Instagram.
Oh, okay, great. So we're going to make sure to have Liza's description of her. I'm falling apart. Her Instagram handle will be below in the description box. And if you have writer's block, we have a special checklist. You can get that delivered straight to your email by clicking the light bulb emoji in the description box. Liza, thank you for a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful interview. And I hope we see you again.
Thanks. You too.
High five.